start with the Bhagavatam. It's not on the board. I didn't write it on the board, but is this on?
Yeah.
But we have possibly a lot to cover today anyway, so maybe we will just read it. Okay, so we're on. Did I say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya?
No.
Okay, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswati Vyasam.
Devim Saraswati Vyasam.
Tojaya Mudirayat.
Tojaya Mudirayat.
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God in Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva the author. Srinvatam Swakata Krishna.
Srinvatam Swakata Krishna.
Shravana Kirtana. Vidyantasto Hivadrani.
Vidyantasto Hivadrani.
Virunoti Suritsatam.
Virunoti Suritsatam.
Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashtapraeshu Vadreshu.
Nashtapraeshu Vadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So today, it is a disappearance of both Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Gadadhar Pandit, who is the Gadadhar. I used to think it was a different person. I was all mixed up. Gadadhar Pandit is the Gadadhar in the Ashtaka. So I could read some of that too. Then I'll start with Bhagavatam, and then go to those others. So, we do the verse. If anybody has, I guess, the phone out. This is verse 32 because we did 31 last time. So I guess I'll say the words one at a time. You repeat, and that way you'll have said it. If anybody has the pocket Vedas or something on their phone or has a book, they can say it. And we'll just. That's all right with everybody. We just read the words so you can repeat. Ete. Sriti. Te. Nripa. Vedagite. Ete Sriti Te Nripa Vedagite. Vayavishte. Cha. Sanatanai. Cha. Vayavishte Cha Sanatane Cha. Vayavishte Cha Sanatane Cha. Yea. Vai. Pura. Brahmana. Aha. Tushta. Nevai Pura Brahmana Aha Tushta. Nevai Brahmana Aha Tushta. Aradhito. Bhagavan. Vasudeva. Aradhito Bhagavan Vasudeva. How many people have the phones? Should we go ahead and do it? Or not people have the phones, or should I just move on?
Ete Shriti Te Nipa Vedakite.
Ete Shriti Te Nipa Vedakite.
Vaya Viviste cha sanatane cha
Tvaya Vishlecha Sanatane Cha
eva pura brahmana hatushta
Eva Pura Brahmana Yamushta
adito bhagavan vasudeva
Aradito Bhagavan Vishta
Ete Smriti Te Nipavena Gite
Ete Shite Bhagavite
Tvaya Vishte Cha Sanatane Cha
Tvaya Vishlecha Sanatane Cha
Eva Pura Brahmana Hatushta
Eva Pura Brahmana
Aradito Bhagavan Vasudeva
Aradito Bhagavan
Meanings. Ete,
Ete,
all that is described.
all that is described.
Sriti,
Shriti,
way.
way,
Te,
te, unto you.
Nripa,
Nripa,
O Maharaj Parikshit.
O Maharaj Parikshit.
Veda Gita,
Veda Gita,
according to the version of the Vedas.
according to the version
Tvaya,
Tvaya,
by your majesty.
by your majesty.
Abhikrishte,
Abhivishte,
being properly inquired.
being properly inquired.
Cha,
Cha, also.
Sanatane,
Sanatane,
in the matter of eternal truth.
in the matter of eternal truth.
Cha,
Cha,
verily.
verily.
Yea,
Yea, which,
by,
certainly,
Pura,
Pura, before,
Ramane,
Ramane,
toward Brahma.
unto Brahma,
Aha,
Aha,
said.
said,
Tushtaha,
Tushtaha,
being satisfied.
being satisfied,
Araditaha,
Arahitaha,
being worshipped.
being worshipped,
Bhagavan,
Bhagavan,
personality of Godhead.
the personality of Godhead,
Vasudevaha,
Vasudevaha,
Lord Krishna.
Lord Krishna.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Read the whole thing first. Your Majesty, Maharaj Parikshit, know that all that I have described in reply to your proper inquiry is just according to the version of the Vedas, and it is eternal truth. This was described personally by Lord Krishna unto Brahma, with whom the Lord is satisfied upon being properly worshipped. Please repeat. Your Majesty, Maharaj Parikshit.
Your Majesty, Maharaj Parikshit,
Know that all I have described
know that all I have described
in reply to your proper inquiry
in reply to your proper inquiry
is just according to the version of the Vedas,
is just according to the version of the Vedas,
and it is eternal truth.
and it is eternal truth.
This was described personally by Lord Krishna unto Brahma,
This was described personally by Lord Krishna unto Brahma,
with whom the Lord was satisfied
with whom the Lord was satisfied
upon being properly worshipped.
upon being properly worshipped.
The two different ways of reaching the spiritual sky and thereby getting emancipation from all material bondage, namely, either the direct process of reaching the kingdom of God or the gradual process through the other higher planets of the universe, are set forth exactly according to the version of the Vedas. Be interesting, I didn't think of this, so look back up and see where he said those two things exactly. He was talking about the planets, but anyways. The Vedic versions in this connection are Yada Sarve Pramuchyante Kamasesya Vidishvitaha Ata Mrityo Bhavati Atra Brahma Samashnite from the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 447 and Te Ruchir Abhisambhavanti from Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 6.2.15. Quote, this is a translation that apparently covers both of those. Those who are free from all material desires, which are diseases of the heart, are able to conquer death and enter the kingdom of God through the arching planets. Unquote. These Vedic versions corroborate the version of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the latter is further confirmed by Shukadeva Goswami, who affirms that the truth was disclosed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna Vasudeva to Brahma, the first authority on the Vedas. The disciplic succession holds that the Vedas were uttered by Lord Krishna to Brahma, by Brahma to Narada, and by Narada to Vyasadeva, and then by Vyasadeva to Shukadeva Goswami, and so on. So there's no difference between the versions of all the authorities. The truth is eternal, and as such there cannot be any new opinion about the truth. That is the way of knowing the knowledge contained in the Vedas. It is not a thing to be understood by one's erudite scholarship or by the fashionable interpretations of mundane scholars. There is nothing to be added and nothing to be subtracted, because the truth is the truth. One has to accept, after all, some authority. The modern scientists are also authorities for the common man for some scientific truths. The common man follows the version of the scientist. This means that the common man follows the authority. The Vedic knowledge is also received in that way. The common man cannot argue about what is beyond the sky or beyond the universe. He must accept the versions of the Vedas as they are understood by the authorized disciplic succession. In the Bhagavad Gita also the same process of understanding the Gita is stated in the 4th chapter. If one does not follow the authoritative version of the acharyas, he will vainly search after the truth mentioned in the Vedas. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So, this is, well, it starts out summarizing that there's the ways to go to the spiritual world. There's 2 ways. It talks about that. But it seems like by the end of the purport, Prabhupada has gotten into the heart of the matter, which is the disciplic succession. That we can't learn about these ways. We can't learn about where to go. We can't learn any of these things except through disciplic succession. So, hence it connects with this special day today. So, which I will draw together. So, in the first, Lord, I think it's in the canto, might be the second, near the end of the 2nd canto, answers by citing the Vedic version is the name of the chapter. And it tells, should be in here. Answers by citing the Lord's version. So it's in the 2nd canto, near the end, not at the end, near the end. And it's the story of how Lord Brahma, by his meditation, he went to the spiritual world and he asked his 4 great questions of Lord Krishna, and who gave him four sentences, 4 verses in answer, and instructed him to go forth and expand on this. So that was the first time the Bhagavatam was spoken. And I was going to go there. Essentially establishes Krishna, establishes the souls, and establishes Chintya Veda, Veda Tattva, and establishes well, the material energy, souls and material energy, Chintya Veda, Veda Tattva, and then finally learn the truth by seeking from the spiritual master. So that's the essential 4 verses in the Bhagavatam, briefly. And of course, this is handed down, this disciplic succession. And so then Krishna talks about, well, before I go there, just basically that we can't know anything without this disciplic succession. We can't know unless we hear from the proper authorities. Can't make it out, can't figure it out, can maybe figure out some pieces of the whole truth and be pretty right, but only certain pieces of it, not the whole thing at all. And we won't make much spiritual progress. We might get a little higher in moral goodness. We might get a little bit higher in impersonalism and personal understanding. But we will not actually get the highest truth unless we accept it from authorities. It has to be the right authorities. Of course, there are 4 sampradayas. In this purport, it says, what does it say in the Gita? Is it mentioned Shukadeva Goswami even? Because there are sometimes branches. I'm just curious right now. Krishna, Brahma, Narada, Vyasa, Madhava. So this particular branch is traced that way. However, obviously, since we study the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami is right in there, and of course parallel, and it's the same line. So Shukadeva Goswami spoke, Sutta Goswami heard and spoke, and then we recite the Srimad Bhagavatam down through time. That's also the disciplic succession. It's not like another dimension of the same disciplic succession. And so even though Shukadeva Goswami's name is not in the Bhagavad Gita list, it doesn't matter, because then we study the Srimad Bhagavatam, so he's eventually right there. So it's all one truth. So we cannot know it without the disciplic succession. So anyways, this disciplic succession is very precious. It needs to be protected, like the mango that's so easily bruised. It's in the top of the tree. When they harvest the mangoes, they hand them down to lower and lower position workers on the ladder, so that the mango can be placed gently in the basket and won't be bruised. So this is the analogy given to us for how the disciplic succession comes to us. It's precious. Each mango is precious enough to handle, because it's going to end up, somebody's going to get a mango that's not bruised. So, and it's going to be hopefully offered to Krishna first. So this disciplic succession of this truth, this authoritative truth, is very, very precious. And it can be bruised, it can be broken. So the proof of it is, well, first of all, we know in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, which is, I'm going to go to, this was mentioned. So, first 3 verses of chapter 4. Imam Vispate Yogam Sri Bhagavani Vacha Imam Vispate Yogam Proktavan Ahamadayam Devasvan Manava Praha Mano Ishvakadevavit. The personality of Gaia, Lord Shri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Devasvan, and Devasvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ishvaku. Let's see how long it takes to read. Here we find the history of the Bhagavad Gita traced from a remote time when it was delivered to the royal order of all planets, beginning from the sun planet. The kings of all planets are especially meant for the protection of the inhabitants, and therefore the royal order should understand the science of Bhagavad Gita in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from material bondage to lust. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge, in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the executive heads of all states and all planets obliged to impart this lesson to the citizens by education, culture, and devotion. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to spread the science of Krishna consciousness so that the people may take advantage of this great science and pursue a successful path, utilizing the opportunity of the human form of life. I think I'll mention right here, instead of reading the rest of the paragraph, I think I'll mention that in a sense, every governmental unit, this is true, and we are a governmental unit in our own way here because we have a governmental head, we have CMT, and we're a unit. We are also obliged in the same way. So whoever comes near, we should somehow make this available. We don't have to, like force. Everybody's afraid of forcing. We don't have to force anybody, but we do have to make it available. We do have to make it clear what we are and not allow it to be missed, overlooked, or whatever, because people are not particularly coming for that they know of. Anybody who comes to the Holy Dham, it's a special thing that somebody comes to the Holy Dham, and we should not forget that. And at least make it clear what we are, and that they should respect it and give them an idea of what this is. So you don't have to, if they're just visiting for a short time, we don't have to push it on them, but we should make it clear what we are. So, because otherwise they'll try to make their own philosophy clear. They will sense a gap, and they'll try to make their own philosophy clear. We can't have that. So text 2, Evam Haram Pravapratam Imam Raja Shayo Vidu Sakaline Mahata Yogo Nashta Parantapa. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. So, was scattered by the motives of the unscrupulous commentators, there arose the need to reestablish the disciplic succession. 5,000 years ago, it was detected by the Lord himself that the disciplic succession was broken. And therefore, he declared that the purpose of the Gita appeared to be lost. In the same way, at the present moment, there are also so many editions of the Gita, especially in English, but almost all of them are not according to authorized disciplic succession. There are innumerable interpretations rendered by different mundane scholars, but almost all of them do not accept the Supreme Personality of God and Krishna, although they make a good business on the words of Krishna. The spirit is demonic, because demons do not believe in God, but simply enjoy the property of the Supreme. So that's also interesting that we have to, that how the disciplic succession can be broken by unscrupulous persons with a demonic attitude of not accepting the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but making a good business on his words. So sometimes people quote Krishna, but they're not following Krishna. So this is how the disciplic succession can be broken. I'll just read one more. Saivaya maya tedya yoga bhokta puratana bhakto sime sakar cheti rahasyam yetad uttamam. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. So even though Arjuna is not listed in the Sampradaya, he was key to this Bhagavad Gita being spoken and being spread. So he's a key person in the Sampradaya anyway. Even though he's not listed as one who passed it on, he passed it on by facilitating its being spoken in that sense. So, and that pertains to, let me see, I'll go right to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because the disciplic succession was not broken, but almost obscured. Between the time of Lord Chaitanya, Krishna himself came with the Panchatattva, and there's like six Goswamis and their followers, and they wrote vast numbers of volumes and wrote songs, and there was a huge movement of the truth about who Krishna is and how we should worship him. And that got obscured by unscrupulous followers. And it was only 500 years ago, and halfway here it was so obscured that Vaishnavism was not even respected anymore. It was seen as a cheap kind of imitation of just kind of a cheap sexual thing. And they respectable people wanted nothing to do with it. That was only happened like 250 years or something. So, and that was right after Lord Chaitanya, the six Goswamis and their very followers. So it's so easy for it to be obscured. There were always still pure devotees in that line. It was not broken, but it was obscured anyway. And so most people were not benefiting from it. And it had to be, in the public eye, it had to be rethought, reestablished all over again. So this is where Bhaktivinoda Thakur comes in. So, and I'll read a little bit, some excerpts from, this is from the Songs of the Vaishnavacharyas, and even this is pretty long, so I marked out some things because there's a lot of good stories, but we always hear about those stories. I want to focus on a particular thing. So, Thakur Bhaktivinoda led a life of incessant labor and activity for Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He effected such immense good in the world that his work is only to be compared with the unbounded works of Sri Chaitanya himself, the Goswamis, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and his Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It was the spiritual attempts and divine writings of this individual that turned the tide and led the intelligent and educated community to believe in the noble precepts and teachings of Lord Chaitanya. If we look back a century and a half from when this was written, or possibly getting closer to 2 centuries now, we cannot but be astonished to find how degraded was the condition of the Vaishnava faith, which had its pure origin in the deep and majestic spiritual philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even vastly learned pundits could not fathom the super excellent precepts of Lord Chaitanya's philosophy, yet due to immorality born of the ignorance of uncultured men, the Vaishnava faith had been degraded and was considered a beggar's excuse for living at the expense of society. It was out of sheer love of Godhead that Thakur Bhaktivinoda expounded the deep philosophy that had remained concealed in the pages of the Vedas, Upanishads, Puranas, and Srimad Bhagavatam. By his action toward divine service, and also by his words, set in simple language to be easily understood by readers in general, he pioneered in giving this philosophy to the world. It was his writing and his unparalleled divine character that had helped produce a class of educated and enlightened men who are now proud of their Vaishnava faith and their acquisition of the spiritual knowledge of the pure and sublime philosophy of Krishna, on which the teachings of Sri Chaitanya are based. So, pause a moment. When name won't come to me, who came and had that talk with founder of Acharya series?
Sureshvar.
I was going to say the wrong names. Sureshvar came, and he was talking about how, in the beginning, because Vaishnavism was considered, because of the Sahajas, Vaishnavism was considered to be really low class and just, well, it was considered to be like the Sahajas, basically. And that they were basically representing it, so there was ill repute because they were not even following principles. And so first, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was born in a family that had nothing to do with the Vaishnavas for that reason. It was a wealthy family and they had nothing to do with the Vaishnavas. So first, he had to establish the equality of the Vaishnavas and bona fide religions of the world. So he established how all religions are teaching the same thing in Vaishnavas too, and then he established how Vaishnavism is superior, which ultimately it is, because it gives way more information on who Krishna is, how we should act toward Krishna, and what our goal is and where we can go. It gives way, way more information. So it is superior. And unless you have the personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, you can't go back to Goloka Vrindavan. So maybe not even to Vaikuntha. So it's superior. And the other religions have only the Vedas notion of God is barely above the impersonal conception, especially like the Abrahamic religions. Okay, God has feelings. Okay, he must have whatever it means that he made us in his image. He certainly probably doesn't really look like us because he's invisible. So they think it means something else, like he has feelings like us or something. So he has some feelings. But that's a vaguest, minimalist idea of God. It's mostly impersonal. It's a pretty abstract concept otherwise. Except that he has feelings like a father and artistic feelings because he created. And sometimes he gets angry. So we have so much more information. We can actually know him as a person, and we can go to love him and go back to his realm. So anyway, that was, first he had to establish the equality because the other religions were being held as bona fide religions, and then so he had to show Vaishnavism is too. And then he showed her the superiority of it. So that's one reason why some of his new devotees, if they read some of his books, they get confused because they might be reading books from the first phase. And then they start, equalizing it, they get confused. So it's better to stick with Prabhupada until you're really solid, and then you can read his other writings. They're very solid too, but they had a different purpose at first. So anyway, he wrote many, many books. In this whole thing, there's lots of names of books listed that he wrote. I'm not going to read all of them, or tell certain paragraphs. But,
excuse me, on this, what was the different purpose?
Different purpose?
Earlier,
he wanted to establish the validity of Vaishnavism because other religions were considered valid religions, and Vaishnavism was considered, just a sahajiya thing just for sense gratification. It wasn't even included, So he had to establish that it's equally.
But that's Bhaktivinoda, right?
Bhaktivinoda.
Prabhupada did the same thing with his earlier writing?
No, not Prabhupada.
Oh.
No, not Prabhupada. By that time it was established. Bhaktivinoda had already done his thing.
Oh.
He had established the superiority of Vaishnavism. And Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta continued that and fighting the Sahajiyas, fighting the Mayavadis, fighting, it's constant because, let's see, there was something, without finding which paragraph it was in, after they tell the story and hear about the one that we always hear about, that he was this yogi who was an imposter. He was claimed to be Mahavishnu, and he was enjoying other people's wives and everything. He was thrown into jail, and he was making, by his mystic powers, he was making them sick. And but he was making Bhaktivinoda Thakur's family sick, and then he made him sick, but plunged on him, he was sentenced.
So you were referring to Bhaktivinoda's earlier writings, not Prabhupada. Like,
Yeah.
You always stick to Prabhupada's books.
Yeah, but I'm totally talking about Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writing.
Okay.
They said it's totally Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And, sorry about that. So anyway, he defeated this imposter. We always hear about that story. And finally, some Englishman cut off his hair, and he lost all his power. He couldn't make anybody sick or anything anymore. So, and then he died. So, because he had been fasting and he had been surviving by his power, but then when his hair was cut off, he died from it. Something like that. But anyway, after that, there was somebody who rose up who was a false Balaram, and after that, somebody was a false something else, and somebody, it's like, what do you call that? It's whack-a-mole game or something always pops up when you got to whack it. And that goes on. That goes on because there are always unscrupulous persons who want to take the words of God and use them their own way. So they take this something in the books, and they claim to be Mahavishnu or Balaram or Krishna or something. They claim people, Christians are plagued by, not in their churches, but outside. Somebody's always turning up somewhere who claims to be Jesus Christ or something. It's always, usually those are crazy people, not so much deliberate, because they don't believe in reincarnation normally. But anyways, this is a constant battle. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur reestablished in two phases, reestablished the high position of Vaishnavism. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta continued the battle, and Prabhupada continued the battle, and the books, they all wrote prolific books making the philosophy very clear, and the books say the same thing in many beautiful different ways. They all have the same philosophy that we have to surrender to, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, and go back to Godhead. So they all say that in different ways. So let's read some more. So there's a sentence here about Bhaktivinoda Thakur that he made the world know what hidden treasures pervade every page of the Bhagavatam. It should be read by all persons having a philosophical turn of mind. So we should all read the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is what? The very means of conquest. So if we have this Bhagavatam, it will strengthen our philosophy and our love for Krishna, and that will be stronger. So I'll just read these little excerpts. After listing various events and writings, he also published Sri Krishna Samhita, which revealed to the world the underlying philosophy explaining the spiritual existence of Krishna. This book opened the eyes of educated people to teach them their true philosophy with God, relationship with God. It also attracted the admiration of many German scholars, for although the public regarded Krishna as a poetic creation of erotic nature, this is how the public this is how it had degraded in the eyes of the public, a poetic creation of erotic nature. Srila Bhaktivinoda, on the basis of Vedic evidence, revealed Krishna to be Parabrahman, the supreme transcendental person, the absolute being. That was a job to go against that and establish this truth. Next one I marked up. While staying at Marasat, Thakur Bhaktivinoda met the famous Bengali writer Bankim-Chandra. This novelist and playwright had just finished writing a book on Krishna, and knowing Srila Bhaktivinoda to be an authority on topics of Krishna, he gave the manuscript to Bhaktivinoda Thakur to see. It was full of mundane Western-style speculations and ideas. But after 4 days of discussion, Bhaktivinoda had the whole text revised by Bankim-Chandra to accommodate the pure, super-mundane precepts of Lord Chaitanya. So, okay, since we're running short on time, we'll go to... Okay, well then it goes to how he discovered the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya, but we're running out of time. So I discovered the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya by, everybody was saying it was in the wrong place. It was in a navigate that was only 100 years old. And he kept researching and researching and researching, and finally he found the exact place. And of course, it was proven by his Shri Jagannath Das Babaji, who was so old he couldn't walk. He was carrying the basket, but he jumped out and started dancing at that place. So I would not have to read it's. Okay, so what I want to say about this, first of all, is the importance of the disciplic succession and how we have to always fight, how easy it is to lose it. And here in this small unit, we could lose it. It's not impossible. So we have to be strong on the philosophy. We have to make sure it's known we cannot allow other philosophies to be preached here out of niceness. We have to be still nice, but we have to make clear what we stand for. And we otherwise we could, if we are so nice to everybody, and we make room for everybody, think ahead decades, we could lose the disciplic succession in our little unit here. So
How is that possible when, like, for instance, in ISKCON they have two very divided groups about women gurus, and then you see a book here about women gurus promoting that. How can we stay neutral?
how can we stay neutral? That's a whole different topic. Well, the main thing is we stick to Prabhupada's books and instructions, and we may find opposing arguments, but we have to respect each other's arguments, and they came from Prabhupada, so we have to have a grown-up, gentlemanly and gentlewomanly discussion about it. But that's a different thing. That there are controversies based on Prabhupada's instructions is, well, we just have to keep working to understand each other and understand Prabhupada's books, because Prabhupada is one person who said apparently two things. So that means we have to understand more deeply. But we have to stick to Prabhupada's books, and we have to preach from Prabhupada's books, and we have to make sure everybody understands that we stand for Prabhupada's books. This is what I'm saying. That we cannot, out of niceness, allow impersonalism to coexist and that kind of thing. We have to make it clear, not beating him over the head or anything, but we have to make it clear what we stand for and why. So we have to be strong. We have to be strong in Prabhupada's books and instructions. This is what I'm saying. So he's given us the books in common language that we can read, and everybody can read, and we can distribute the books. But if we read them and study them and stick to them, then we can protect it, because anything can happen. They had a lot of books then 200 years ago too, and everything was all, in bad shape. So it's a constant thing like the whack-a-mole. We have to be on. We didn't accomplish it yet. It's all done. It's accomplished. It's set. It's a constant whack-a-mole, because the impersonalists, the Sahajis, all these different philosophies exist in various forms in the West as well as in India, and they keep trying to make inroads because people don't want to surrender off of that. So, and I read the part about the author that wrote all wrong about Krishna. In 4 days, they had intense discussion, meaning we can work with people. Almost all of us came from some form of impersonalism, and we came to Krishna in spite of, because somebody spoke strongly to us. Every single one of us, somebody spoke strongly to us and got us past whatever version of impersonalism we were attached to. And so we have to still do that. It goes on, because people are still, the world is still full of people who want to be impersonalists. And so we have to keep on doing this. This is my point here. So now, because I got to read this quick thing about Sri Gadadhar. I'm just going to read down certain paragraphs. Sri Gadadhar was the constant companion of Mahaprabhu from the time of their childhood. His father's name was Sri. During their childhood, Sri Gaurahari and Gadadhar would play together, sometimes at Mahaprabhu's house and sometimes at Gadadhar's house. They both studied together in the same school. Gadadhar was a few years younger than Nimai. Nimai couldn't remain without Gadadhar even for a moment, and Gadadhar likewise couldn't stand to be separated from Nimai. In the Gora Ganodesh Deepika, it is described that the person who in Vraja was the daughter of Sri Vishabhanu Raja, namely Srimati Radharani, is now celebrated as Sri Gadadhar Pandit. Lord Lord Sundar, who is beyond the purview of the scriptures, beyond the entire Brahman, and above even the Vedas, can never be known by the atheist whose intelligence is dull. Lord Nityananda is his eternal self. Lord Chaitanya is Lord Govinda himself, and Pandit Gadadhar is none other than Sri Radha. The divine couple who are present as in Sri Chaitanya are a well abreast. Advaita Acharya has prayed for his descent. I mean, that's not done. It's his disappearance day, and I should have. I don't know the story of his disappearance. Anybody know the story of his disappearance? Really good.
The only thing I know is that he was in a samadhi, like a Bhajan Kuti, a small structure, just chanting japa. And he left his body there. And I don't know if they used the same structure to put him in samadhi, but there is a samadhi in, I believe, in Radhakund.
Okay, I'll stop here, open up for any questions or comments.
I know when Bhaktivinoda Thakur left, that Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj wasn't present. He left in Calcutta, and one of the other sons actually had his body cremated, and Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was upset. Because we know how great souls they're interred, they have full body samadhi, and there was some disagreement there. I forget all the ins and outs of it. And also, we know that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that he actually feigned paralysis. He pretended to be paralyzed the last years of his life, and he had actually, he was in samadhi, going in and out of samadhi, and I guess for whatever purpose, not to be disturbed in those last days. It's just something I recall from the 3-volume biography of Bhakti Vikash Maharaj.
Yeah. In the early days, the first devotees, some of the first devotees, they were saying, who are these Mayavadis? Who are these impersonalists? And then they learned more, and then they learned more, and they said, wow, we're the Mayavadis. We're the impersonalists.
So we all came from, even Sahajis are impersonal in a different sense because they are minimizing Krishna and Guru, and they're just for enjoyment of their senses. So there's so many different versions of impersonalism. Everything that isn't pure Vaishnavism is impersonalism of some sort. Yeah, we all came from that, and we can help others too, but we have to actually help them. Yeah.
In my traveling in different harinams, I just have a question about, I noticed more devotees have been wearing Western dress, and sometimes like really torn up jeans or long hair. And I remember reading something where Prabhupada said the reason he wanted to shave up and dress nicely is to separate us from the Sahajis and the Mayavadis and the yogis and hippies. So I think it's really important. What do you say about that? Dress code.
Prabhupada said just
representing who we really are.
Sometimes he said just dress like ladies and gentlemen, but really he was pleased by wearing saris and dhotis, and we should keep that up. We should wear. I've been wearing sari almost all the time now since you're partly your influence. Because when I was outside and moving for so long, I was wearing Western clothes, but it's never comfortable in the anyways. I mean, not physically comfortable. I just felt embarrassed because Western clothes are designed to focus on the body and make you look like you've got the right shaped body.
Or else you feel like a Christian or something.
Too
modest and it's not.
But I mean they're focused. But even if they're completely modest, they're supposed to make you feel like you've got the right shaped body, not the wrong shaped body. And so it's still about the body. So I was never comfortable. I'm much more comfortable about who I am in a sari. So saris and dhotis remind us that we're not these bodies because they're designed for that purpose, to remind us we're not these bodies, we're eternal spirit souls. We belong to Krishna.
Can I add something to that real quick? One time on YouTube, I was researching that about, because there's another controversy in ISKCON, it seems like, about dress. There was a Buddhist monk who was being interviewed by a really hardcore Christian. Why do you dress like this monk? And he said, well, example is one time I was in a crowd and some guy collapsed with a heart attack. wanted to do something, you know, try to help. And I said, wait, I'm a monk, let me do it. Everybody immediately recognized him. He got in there and he'd say some prayer while he got to bed and stuff. And I thought that's important, you know, people will see us and then, oh, that's a Hare Krishna over there, you know.
Actually, every minute is like that because everybody's dying sooner or later, and every minute is that opportunity. So if we, yes.
In Atlanta, there's a couple of Buddhist monasteries, and I was talking to a Buddhist monk and a Buddhist nun, and they said, you know, you guys, we're out and we're chanting, and they go, oh, there goes the Hare Krishnas. And sometimes they mistake the Buddhists.
We used to do that more, so I think we'll pretty much.
Oh, just that in the beginning, the very beginning, you see some of the early videos, I guess they were 8mm or 16mm films, you see the devotees are dressed like with a suit and tie, a jacket. As a matter of fact, when Kirtananda went to India, with Prabhupada the first time, he was wearing a jacket, tie, and it was really hot. It was in July or something. It was awful. And that's what he said. And so Prabhupada didn't think that we were going to necessarily take to the dress, but you know, if we were going to. But then he was happy that we did. But and Kirtananda was the first to do it. If we were to take to the West, if we weren't, he wanted us not to dress like hippies. He wanted us to dress like gentlemen and ladies. So dress is important and not important. But I'm just giving a reference in terms of what it was initially in the beginning.
Well,
So
no, the interesting thing, men can wear suits and ties, and it's like standard and decent and everything, but women to dress up, women dressing up sometimes is still like required to dress really sexy, you know, it's just to be dressed up. So sorry, they're nice.
But I also had an experience once where I took my wife and son, my first wife and son, to see my high school during the summer. We were walking around the back by the track and everything, and it was during the summer, so there was a janitor inside. It's a big school. I mean, my graduating class, there was 1,100, so it's a very large building. And he was at the back end of the building, but everything was locked up, and to get out, he had to go all the way around to the front by the time, because he saw us walking, and I was in Dodi, and she was in Sari. And he was like, what is that? You know? And so he couldn't get to us. We had already left. By the time he got out, we were gone. So you fast forward about 5 days, and I was in the Manhattan Temple at the time. And I was walking through the lobby, and this fellow walks up to me and says, were you in Oceanside last weekend? I said, yeah, why? That's where I came from. I said, I'm the janitor at the high school, and I saw you guys walking through and I had to find out what you were, just by the dress. And then he came to the Manhattan Temple. He spent a week or so there. I don't know whatever happened to him in the end, because I had ended up coming back down south shortly after that. So, but that shows you that dress has some, you know.
Yeah. And then we dress the part. We're committed, so then we are more. Philosophy is more upfront if we need to talk to somebody. So when I was in my hometown, when we were in my hometown, we was taking care of my mother. So nobody there, no devotees there. Small hometown. I could not wear a sari. I could not preach. I had always thought that I would preach in my hometown. I could not do it. I just shrank. And by wearing the army clothes, the Western clothes, I was just living a compromised position because I couldn't speak it, I couldn't look it, I couldn't do anything, and I was just having to cooperate with everybody. And it was actually terrible. I've been not like that, and I feel much better being here, and I get to actually be who I am. I'm stressing that we stay focused and not be lax, but make sure that our correct philosophy is known here. We don't have to make people become Hare Krishnas about it, but we have to make sure they know what Hare Krishnas are. Yeah.
But I was thinking that if I ever did book distribution in Picayune, for example, where they're very
Why
conservative.
too fast, what?
If I was doing book distribution in Picayune, for example, very conservative, it says science is, this is just normal enough, so
She's just.
I was thinking of putting Western clothes on, just to approach them, because that might be a turn off just right off the bat. But that hasn't been my experience in New Orleans.
Right.
They're very, in fact, I had a better reception here than I was in Los Angeles.
I wear sari nowadays to Walmart when I go. I don't bring a book because, I don't know, nobody ever talks, but people look and people appreciate, you know. Sometimes people look and, you know, smile and say, or they say, pretty dress or something like that, you know. So I don't think the reaction will be negative. I don't know, because book distribution, the only place I can think of to do book distribution where there are actually people that aren't in cars would be in Walmart. I don't know where else in Picayune, but there is actually
My
people
book
that
does
you
it.
count on. Huh?
My court does it in the Walmart.
In a Walmart,
Yeah.
because I can't think where there's enough people that are not driving past you in cars.
Mahatma does it too.
Yeah,
In Los Angeles, I
I
did
don't.
an experiment where I just even covered my head with full long sari and all the sort. The whole time I was there, and I got a lot of respect from people, and they would even say Hare Krishna, which goes back to why I think it's really good to have our standards be clear for everyone, because like the Buddhists, does the women also wear orange? You know, people will
Yeah.
gradually recognize
None.
which
Some
group is
none.
which. You think? You know, because I think in the Buddhism, the women do wear orange, and some of the women shave their heads.
Yes.
You know, there's different groups, and people, the public can start knowing who's who.
Some people are afraid, sometimes men are afraid of wearing, like, you're a little bit,
I'm wearing dhoti.
in Walmart dressed like a Russian, because he might look like a Muslim, and he's a little afraid of that kind of thing. So, I mean, it's very complicated, but at least mainly, okay, dresses supports the philosophy, but the main thing is the philosophy, and we have to make sure that we keep focused on the philosophy and power principles.
And the preaching.
And preaching, and not just outside of here, but inside of here, because we have people come here. So we have to figure out how to, it's been a big compromise in that we've had to feel polite toward impersonalists, is what I'm saying. We've had to feel very polite toward impersonalists who are here because they do stuff, work. And so I'm saying we got to find a better way without forcing anything on anybody, but we got to find a better way that we don't have to, you know, let them preach to us.
Yeah, plus we're in the country. I tried to do some gardening in the sari for kids.
Yeah,
Get some practical.
That's really good, yeah.
It rained, I got muddy, these things is just dreading.
Yeah, that's true. You can wear clothes. You can wear clothes that approximate the purpose of a sari. You know, you can wear Western clothes that approximate the purpose, like a long shirt over your
I mean, I
pants
always
like
did,
that.
for some reason, I don't know why it's such a big issue today. I think everyone should find out their comfort zone. But when it comes to representing our movement, yeah, we should try to get over our sorry and
Yeah, but
we
I'm
have
not-
to, be dressed uniformly.
I'm not so much talking about clothes. I'm not so talking about how we have to be
No,
strong.
no, you brought it up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because we've had experience sometimes of people having to let people preach impersonalism to us because we have not made our position clear. And so we don't need, and what's going to happen in a few generations? Look way down the road. Can we keep strong? Can we maintain our identity as Vaishnava devotees, you know, and still be preaching to people? So
And dress has a lot to do with personal.
dress has a lot to do with it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Dress expresses it externally. Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
There's a short talk, there's a short talk,